Welcome back to my channel. Now this video is about how sometimes as carpenters and builders and craftspeople we need to get over problems, okay? So this roof is an oak roof and it looks all very complicated, but it was done on a CNC machine, which means basically the skill is taken away and the speed is sped up. And I think that this is, what we're going to see more and more of as we go forward in construction. So one of the jobs that I've got to do is the fact that we've got these little outriggers here and they've all got a little spigot on the end which slots in, and that's the whole benefit of using CNC, because you can produce these nice joints. But unfortunately, green oak like this has a tendency to split. So what I need to do, this could go back to this factory. It's quite away from here. They've got to remake it. It's going to hold us up. So I'm just going to get on. I've got some spare timber and remake this. Now, it's a matter of obviously copying it exactly. Much easier to do this on a CNC machine because you can see that the spigot is all molded round, all in one go. To do this manually on site, I can use saws, I can use chisels, but it's not as easy. So basically, I'm going to go get on with that as well. Here's one I'll show you to the camera, which is basically what it looks like. Something like that, so you can see the spigot, and that would slot into one of these mortises here. Just try and give that little, and that's basically how that works. It's a little jack like that. So I'm going to take that downstairs and quickly copy it. Right, take this down and quickly make a new one up. I might have to change the blade in the saw because it's really fine. I think I need less teeth, but we'll see. So there's a trouble with a job like this where we've only got probably one piece of timber that's long enough to make this one. You can see the problem with this, it's got a shake, okay? And this is just normal with green oak. It'll carry on moving and shaking, but this one has just literally cracked. Since we've had it on site. It's just one of those things, and you couldn't effectively clamp that back together. I've tried to clamp it, I've tried to think about putting a fixing in it or something like that, concealed from the top, but it's not going to happen, so we're going to remake it. Now normally speaking, if that was a mitre, I could set this saw up and just mitre it off. I can't do that, but I can do quite a lot of it on the saw, because I can actually lay this on the saw and work out exactly how deep into a timber I've got to cut the mitre before I'd hit where the spigot is. So I can take most of this out really accurately. Then all I need to do is continue that shoulder, continue this shoulder, and make the spigot, which is very straightforward because I can just cut that off again with the saw. And of course chisel it in. This piece here is obviously the line of the side of the timber. That's why it's missing. That will also be something which I don't have to do anything with. So I'm going to get on with it now. I'll put a cut in with this blade, which has got a lot of teeth. It's a fine blade, but actually I think one with less teeth would be better, but I'll show you exactly what I mean. Let's get some ear defenders. So let me cut a little bit of this green oak for you. It's got a lot of moisture in it, of course. It's very dense. It cuts beautifully, this blade, of course. Let's move some of these out of the way. Yeah. We'll just put a cut in this one. Check we've got a decent battery with a lot of charge. No, that needs to be charged, so I'll get a new battery. Right, stick a nice full battery in the saw. Put the blower on so we can keep the saw clean. Right, so I'll put a cut in, square. So you can see that it's an absolutely beautiful cut. I mean, it's like glass, but I think actually we'll take a few teeth off and it might be better, because as soon as we start cutting on the mitre, that's going to be particularly hard work. Right, the battery's out. There's an Allen key here. Release that. See, that's got a lot of teeth. I've just cleaned it as well. I've just sprayed some blade cleaner on it before I took it off. It's easier to clean it while it's on. It's an absolutely beast of a blade. And run that up, make sure it's nice and straight. So we'll recut that now. See how good that is. So this is the original blade, over a year old. It's never had any damage, but you can see how much quicker that was. It's not such a fine cut, but that doesn't matter. You can see how much quicker that was in this really green oak. So now I'm much happier to do the mitre. Right, so using this one, I'm going to be able to set up a cut. So first of all, we're going to bring the saw around to 45. I've got to do a little bit of messing around. Let's take the battery out just in case I accidentally pull the trigger. Now the idea is I'm going to put this on the fence, keep it nice and square. Set that to 45. Now if you can imagine, what I'm doing here is I'm pulling the saw right down to full depth, and I'm going to imagine how far I can go back to leave enough of the tenon. And I'm going to mark the timber, and I'm going to say, right, that's as far down as I can go on my actual piece to leave enough space. So 65 mil, so I'll write 65 mil there. So when I bring my piece over that I'm going to use, if I measure down 65 and mitre all the way through, I know that I'm not going to take off for that spigot or tenon. And I'll also cut enough of that in there that I can finish it nicely with a handsaw. So just one cut with this will get me virtually everything. It's so heavy, this stuff. This saw needs to be super strong. It's so heavy. Right. Okay. So I'll get Eddie to hold the end of that. So first of all, I'm going to put a mitre flat on the end, because effectively we need to create the spigot. So come up a little bit, Ed. That's it. Tiny bit more. Bit more. I think that's about it. A bit more. There you go. Right, so I'm going to put one straight on the end for the end of the spigot. Just pop the battery back in. You can see how good that blade is. It's absolutely beautiful. Now I'm just going to come along a little way for the spigot. So I'm going to go about 40 mil along, and I want to come down 65 mil, and that's as far as I want to cut with this saw at full depth from back to front, if you like, from here to there. So we just push that back in, ease it along. Now I could reduce the spigot. I'm leaving a little bit more on, if you like. This is just basically so I can get it somewhere near where I want it. Just up a touch, Ed. That's good. Okay, let's get this done. So I've cut to my 65 mark here, which means that I know I can get the spigot on here. And all I need to do now is, using that, follow the shoulders round and remove enough of this stock. I'll take it across to the bench and we can do that quite easily. So that's the last thing I need to do on the saw. They're super heavy, these. I mean, this piece here is probably 40 kilos. It's unbelievable. Right, I'll pop it on here and you can see what we're copying there, which is always useful to have, because straight away I can see how deep we need to be, and that's about 3 inches. We'll do it 3 inches. So I can put a line in here at 3 inches, or 75 or 76 mil. Using a square, just quickly Mark that over there. So I know for a fact I can take all of this out to that point effectively, and still leave enough for a spigot, and then I'll add those shoulders in a while. So what I'm going to do is use the circular saw to depth along the face so I don't overcut it. So I'll just adjust the depth of that. So we got most of the stock removed. That's about the right depth there. Cut that off. Now using a handsaw, just going to take the worst of that out, and then we'll put these shoulders in. So using the cut, like keeping the saw against the cut, I can quite easily just follow that along the shoulder to the spigot point. Nice sharp handsaw. And then we'll get to a point where the spigot this piece will just literally drop out, because all we've got is the grain holding the last little bit. So we just give that a little tweak. And there we have enough to create the spigot, and a decent sharp shoulder done mostly on the saw. Let's turn him over. So now we've got the majority of it moved, we've just got to continue these shoulders round and make sure we keep the spigot the right size. Let's turn this one up the other way as well, that'd be useful. Move some of this gear. So the spigot is actually positioned centrally of the cut there. So we know we can measure that, mark a centre line on, and then transfer that down through the spigot end. So again, that's really straightforward. It looks complicated, but it's not. This is the top, won't be seen, so we can put a pencil mark across here. We can transfer that down to join it up with our shoulder mark here, or cut mark here if you like. Okay, now we can measure the spigot, which is 70 millimeters. We position that in the center of this. So that's the center of our spigot, and we're basically 70 mil, so we're 35 mil either side. So I'm just going to go on a 35 there. There, and 70 here. Mark that out. That's what we're taking out. There's our shoulders. That section, so we can square that down through the front. Take it like with my finger, that's the easiest way. Removing that, and of course this, and that creates the joint. So super simple stuff. Can probably do that all with a handsaw using the cut as its own guide. So we've got this beautiful cut here, so I can just lay that in, and then just using the cut here, keeping the saw against, nice and gently. I'm just letting the saw do the work, following the shoulder line there. Seeing my mark on the top so I can follow that as well. There we go. And again, I can just cut this in as well. This is at 90 degrees to that, so it's just a matter of not undercutting it or overcutting it too much, but it can always be pared back with the chisel. Trying to cut with a flat saw so I don't hit that shoulder, and also follow that mark that I've got at the top here. There we go, I'm into it now. Can follow that along. There we go. Just ease that out. There we go. So that's that top shoulder done. Turn him over and take this out. This one I can do from here, square. In fact, I can just use the circular for that. This is a nice straightforward cut with the circular saw. Make sure that we are no deeper than the spigot. You can see I've got plenty of clearance here, so take the worst of it out with this. Finish it by hand. Finish the last shoulder, and effectively that is the joint done. Now we could check the joint at that point before we cut the length, because it's sometimes good, because if you get it wrong you can move it up the rafter a bit, and we're only human. See, I'm holding the saw against the cut, so I haven't got to worry about not getting it in line. And you can see it's right on our mark, so, and I'm just going to tease that down towards the block, and there we have a spigot. Now we've got to reduce the spigot in length because I made it a little bit long deliberately, but you can see without any cleaning up of the chisel we've got a really nice spigot. Now the spigot length is, it's about 26 mil. So again, that's very straightforward, and because this is in the joint, this can just be a hand saw, 26 millimeters here. Just pop a line on anyway to keep it nice and true. Quickly whiz that off. Again, hand saw, circular saw, doesn't really make a lot of difference. And that is the basic joint done. So it might look complicated, but actually by using the tools that we've got at hand, the big saw, to actually cut into a point, which was in our case about 2¼ inches down, 65 millimeters, we knew that we didn't cut into the spigot. Then we just needed to use a hand saw to follow it round, mark the spigot on the top, and we've created a replica of the other joint. The only difference with the other joint is it has got a rounded bottom, which is from the CNC. I'll show you that. We have to replicate that as well. So you can see that their joint has got this radius that goes around it here. So we need to replicate that on there. That's fairly straightforward. So we'll be just taking that around, and then there we go. So I was going to mark the radiuses, and Ed said try a silicone tube, and do you know what? It's exactly right. So sometimes just go and pick something up. It's no good trying to settle this up with a compass. So yeah, sometimes you can just use all kinds of things. I've used saucepans before to make cutouts and all sorts, you know. It's a little bit like that old program that used to be on TV when I was little, Blue Peter. So there we go. So we're just going to replicate this, most of it by hand, get the rest of it with a chisel. And even though the spigot's looking straight on, it's the same radius, even though it appears to look different. So I can't really mark it there without cutting the silicone tube on a mitre, but I can just look down the silicone tube and create that. And there we have it. So we'll just quickly do that. It won't take a second. Most of it can be done by hand, 90% of the way. And then we'll finish it all with a chisel. Take a nice sharp chisel out of my roll. And just pare that back. It's green oak, so it will pare back really nice and easily and form somewhat of a radius. Clean all this up as we go as well, all that extra little bit there. It's so soft, green oak, when you're chiselling it. This is the beauty of it. Give it a few years, and you'll be whacking this with a mallet. And that is going to fit into a mortise such as that. We could probably even try it down here. Let's see. Come round this way a bit. Down a bit. Round a bit. That way. Stop there, down a bit. Yep, it's a nice tight fit up in the air. It's just a matter of getting it nice and square as we go in. That, I won't bang it all the way home, but that gives you an idea. So now we've made the spigot on the end, we've got the spigot. What we're going to do is just copy the length of this one. I'm going to leave a little bit on so we can trim the very end off in line if we need to. So I'm going to lay this over. Using a square, I'm going to keep the tops flush, or the bottoms flush. Probably the top is better. And then using a square, I'm just going to line the shoulders up to get the lengths. So new shoulder to old shoulder. There we go. So that shoulder with that shoulder, which should effectively be the end to end there. And we know we want to cut it exactly the same as this rake here. It's a nice long cut. But I'm going to leave a little bit on the end so we can trim it exactly in line. So I'm going to leave, say, 25 mil on the end there. So instead of marking it here, I'm going to mark it here. Continue this cut on here. And I'm going to do that freehand with a circular saw. My circular saw should get this, it's 70 millimeters thick. So we'll cut the length first. And it's a really nice cut as well. This is
Just a beautiful blade. These are called the ultimate blades. They're so thin, there's a lot of power. And then we're going to put the rip through as well now. Again, this is a blade which will do ripping and cross cutting. It should handle it just fine. What we want to do is just relax and make sure the saw doesn't burn. We can have to plane it off if it does. Let's just put a little bit of grounds underneath it so we don't cut into the stall too much. I can cut it two ways. I can cut it this way, or I can cut it that way. If I cut it this way, that one will be smooth and this one will be rough, because this one's cutting in, that one's paring off. So I need to go around the other way to create the face side, the one I want to stay smooth. I'm going to use all my weight on this side of the fence so I don't go in on the angle, and away we go. Nice even speed. Let the saw do its work. Listen to it. Nice and gentle. And you can see that this side is rougher than the side we've got left, which is absolutely beautiful with no burn marks. In fact, it's almost better than the CNC one there. So all I'm going to do now is just ease the edge slightly. Just ease the edge. And that is about all we need to do to that. Take any high spots out, albeit we don't really need to worry too much. And that's it, job done.
Take this up and we'll give it a try.
Hopefully, we're somewhere near it. I think we need to mallet that in. There we go. Oh, that's a nice fit. That is a pretty, let me hold the end up, keeping it in line, that's a pretty good fit.